Hey, beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to my birth story series. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at living.lacy. So today's birth story, I have one of my close friends, Farian, here.
Hi.
And she is going to give her recent birth story for her little baby boy. He is 3 months now. So stay tuned. Okay, Farian. So I'm giving you the floor. Go ahead and tell us your birth story.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm a first-time mom. So my due date was September 9th, and I went into labor on September 3rd. So I remember that day, I was just really anxious. I thought my baby was going to be born early. Like I was preparing for him to come at 38 weeks. But each time I went to my visits where they assessed my cervix, I had only dilated 1 centimeter in a span of 2 weeks. So I was very anxious. I started doing everything I could think of, everything I read to try to induce my labor. So that day we went on a walk like normal. I think I even power walked a little bit. Nothing happened. One of my neighbors stopped me on the walk and she told me about a labor dance to get labor started. So me and my husband were in the living room going through YouTube trying to find this video that the lady recommended. It was some type of Zoom dance. And I was in here dropping it like it's hot to get my labor started. I think I did that for about maybe 30 minutes was like the longest I can go. And I was on my yoga ball that I also used. And I just remember my Braxton Hicks contractions, or so I thought, were growing in intensity. And they were coming very frequently. And I think he had just left to go run an errand or something. And I remember going to the restroom and I noticed that I had lost a little bit of my mucus plug. So I called him on the phone and I said, Tim, get back to the house. And he was here in 5 minutes. So I called the on-call nurse because it was at like 8 or 9 o'clock that night. She said it's normal to lose your mucus plug, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will go into labor right away. She said to start to count my contractions, and if they were, I think, less than 6 or 7 minutes apart, to call her back within an hour. So after I got off the phone with her, I swear my contractions picked up and they started to occur every 4 to 5 minutes. I kind of had my bag all halfway packed. We had things halfway together, but not really all the way together. So I was just trying to stay calm because I didn't want to freak out my husband. But he was running around getting everything packed and in the car. So I called my mom and she made her way over here. And I was just on my yoga ball, just trying to focus, not get nervous, not freak myself out because I wasn't in too much pain. But I can definitely tell that I had went from Braxton Hicks to real contractions. So they were happening every 4 to 5 minutes at that point.
Okay, so like how was the pain to you? Was it more like a period cramp or it was worse? Did it start like a period cramp? Like how did it feel for you?
So it wasn't necessarily as painful as a period cramp. My stomach was just like rock solid. Like, and it would last for 30 seconds to a minute at that point, and my stomach was just really, really hard. I had always had wondering like, how am I going to know the difference between Braxton Hicks and real contractions? Well, I'll tell you, I did. I noticed it real quick. So my mom made it, and she was sitting here with me in the living room. She was starting and stopping the timer on the app. So we did that for an hour, and they were still every 4 to 5 minutes. So I called the nurse back, and she told me to go ahead and come to the hospital to get assessed. Okay. So at this point, it's like, I want to say between 10 and 11 at night. Okay. Of course, when we get to the hospital, they kind of spread out. They weren't every 4 to 5. I want to say they were maybe every like 6 to maybe 8 minutes apart. Mm-hmm. And I was still only 1.5 centimeters dilated. So my contractions were frequent, but I wasn't dilating. I wanted to have a natural birth, so I didn't want to do an epidural. But they did offer me some Stadol to help me sleep and to see if I would dilate any.
So what is the Stadol? Is that like the IV pain meds, or that's more like a sleep medicine?
That was just to help me sleep, and it wasn't through an IV, it was a shot. The Stadol was one of the pain options I was given for pain relief.
Okay. It was more for pain and sleep.
Yes.
Okay. So has your water broken yet, or you're just
No.
contractions? Okay.
And I want to say it's after midnight at this point.
Okay. When you went to the triage area, did they like, how was the assessing? Like, did they put the thing on your stomach to just to check your contractions and then that was it? Or what all did they do?
Okay, so when I first got there, they took me into a room because it's COVID. So they checked my temperature, asked me if I had been exposed or been around anybody with COVID.
Did you have to get a COVID test?
No.
Okay.
So after that point, they sent me into a room in the triage center. They gave me a hospital gown. I was able to lay down in the bed, and they did put the monitor on me to monitor my contractions. And then they put the heart monitor so we can hear the baby's heartbeat. They checked my cervix. So I was still only 1.5 centimeters dilated. So she kind of just let me progress on my own. She just, checked my cervix, and she said she would be in to recheck me in about an hour. So at that point, I was just kind of anxious. I couldn't really sleep. So that's when she came back within an hour, and she offered me the Stadol to help me sleep to see if I would make any progression. That did help me sleep. I got a little bit of sleep. So within another hour, her and the doctor came in and they checked me, and I had dilated 0.5 centimeter. So I was just over 2 centimeters. So they weren't sure whether or not they were going to keep me, but they ended up calling the OB floor and they decided to admit me. So after 2 hours of being in triage, they moved us up to a floor.
About what time is it now?
It's after midnight. I want to say it's around between 12 and 1 in the morning when we actually get in the room. The nurse comes in. She does start an IV, but I tell her that I do not want to be hooked up to anything because, being natural, I wanted to be able to walk around the room freely because I didn't want any medicine. And I didn't feel like I needed any fluids at that point because I didn't feel dehydrated or anything. But I did let them go ahead and give me the IV just in case something happened or I changed my mind. That way the IV would already be in, and that's one less thing I would have to worry about later on.
Okay, so that's just the little part that's about that big.
Yeah, so it's just the catheter. They just stick me and then they leave the catheter in my arm. So that way, I think she put it in my hand. That way they wouldn't have to take the time to try to find a vein and get it started. I would already have it.
Okay, so now it's after about 1 o'clock, you have your catheter IV part in, and now what?
So we kind of get settled in a room. Like I said, I was still only 2 centimeters dilated, but I can't remember at one point during the morning, the contractions picked up and they were painful, like really painful. And of course it's COVID, so nobody else was in there with us. Nobody was allowed to be there. It was just me and my husband. But I was able to FaceTime my mom. So we had her propped up on the little camera stand. So it was like she was in there with us the whole time. So I think the first thing I tried was the ball. So in the labor rooms, they have like the peanut ball, the little like bouncy like yoga ball. So I tried that. So I was on that and I had the chair in front of me. So I would hold on to the chair, and as I would feel a contraction, I would just hold on and try to brace myself and just try to breathe through it. But the contractions were very painful. Not like overly painful to where I really like thought I couldn't handle it, but they definitely, something just changed and I could feel them. Like I could hardly sleep. I don't think I even got sleep that night. So it's still like early morning period, like the 3, 4 o'clock in the morning time frame.
Did the nurse show you like what to do on the ball, or it was just you just kind of winging it?
So I had kind of prepared myself with YouTube videos and just what I read. And we took a virtual natural birth class. So I had kind of familiarized myself with certain techniques that I knew I wanted to try going in. But unfortunately, the nurse I had that night was not very helpful. I don't think I saw her, but that one time when she started my IV. And then the next time I saw her was, doing report shift change in the morning when she was introducing my new nurse for the day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we were kind of on our own. So my new nurse was an older lady, and she actually had an orientee with her. So I was able to have two nurses take care of me throughout the day.
Okay.
So this new nurse, I don't remember her name, but she was very helpful, very encouraging about the natural birthing process. She came in with like right out the back, like she saw my position. She corrected me to something that was more helpful. Or, to help relieve like the pain in my back because I was having some back pain. She came in with different type of methods. She even came in with like some oil, I want to say lavender or like a peppermint oil for me to breathe in to help relax me. So she was great. And I was like,
Right.
okay, I'm in good hands now. So I felt
Right.
a lot better.
Did they check your dilation at all? Because that was like 1 o'clock, and then you said the nurse change was at like 7, so they hadn't checked any dilation between then.
They had not checked me again until I think my doctor came in at between 11 and 12 that morning. And the reasoning for that is they don't like to overly like examine you. First of all, because they know it's painful. And then like the more they go in and assess, like the higher the risk for infection. So they were just like monitoring me closely on the strips. And then she did give me the option because of the pain I was in. And like my lower back pain, if I wanted to be checked again, but I said no, I didn't feel like anything had changed. So we were just gonna wait for my doctor to come in that morning.
Okay.
And I want to say Dr. Thomas came in between 11 and 12 to do her roundings, and she came in and checked me. And I want to say I was only like 2.5 centimeters. So
Okay.
I was still having frequent contractions. I was in pain, but I was only 2.5 centimeters. So I was just like, what in the world is going on? Like, how am I going to make it all the way to the end? And I'm in this much pain already. So I was just like, I don't know what to do. So she came in, she sat on the edge of the bed. She was like, Farian, I don't think you're in real labor. Yeah, that's how I
That
looked. I
means
was like, what do you mean I'm not in real labor? I was like, my contractions have been very consistent. They do vary from like 3 to 4 minutes to like maybe 6 to 8 minutes, but that's still like consistently having contractions all night.
right.
But I wasn't dilating. I don't know what was going on, but she was just like, I don't think you're in real labor. I don't know what all we can do for you here, being that you want to be natural. I can send you home, but I'll give you some time to think about it. She was like, in the meantime, it is time for you to get another dose of Stadol if you would like it. And Stadol, like I said, it just kind of helps you rest. It doesn't take the pain completely away like an epidural does, but it does take the edge off.
Okay.
So I did want another dose because when you're up and you're anxious, it's hard for you to dilate. So by me going to sleep and taking a nap, it would kind of help my cervix to relax and to hopefully dilate so I could start making some progress. And I also hadn't eaten since like 8 p.m., like the night before on the 3rd. Because, once they admit you, they don't really offer you anything just in case you have to get the epidural or you have to have a section. They don't offer you anything. So she offered me food. So I ate for the first time in like over 12 hours. So I ate, I got the Stadol, and I took a nap. And I want to say she came back in at like between 2 and 3, maybe, to reassess me. And I think at that point, I had jumped up to like 3.5, maybe 4 centimeters. I made some progress, but she still said the standard for like real start of labor or like active labor is 6 centimeters. So I was like, what? Like 6 centimeters? I was like, what in the world? So she was still debating on whether or not to send me home. So I was having really bad contractions. Like they were really bad. Like I didn't cry at that point, but I was just like, Tim, I don't know what to do. I cannot go home because I feel like I'm in labor now. And she's telling me I'm not in labor. How am I going to know when to come back to the hospital? But I was scared to go home and something happen and I'm not knowing that I'm progressing or dilating and have my baby at home. Like I'd rather just be at the hospital. So then she reintroduced the idea of an epidural. And at the end of the day, she was like, what's more important, saying that you had the baby without an epidural or delivering your baby today and taking home a healthy baby. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Give me the epidural. So she broke my water because my water still didn't break on its own. But because I hadn't had any fluids or anything in me, I had to wait for them to hook me up to the fluids. And I had to have a whole 1,000 milliliter bag infused in me before they would call the anesthesiologist to come and give me the epidural.
Oh my goodness. So you had to suffer through.
I had to suffer, and they started Pitocin. So Pitocin speeds up your contractions. So I was getting Pitocin in the fluids, but I couldn't get the epidural until the fluids were all the way in. So my contractions had picked up in intensity and frequency. And at that point, I was miserable. Like, I could not even open my eyes. I was in so much pain.
Did they give you an option for Pitocin, or you have to do Pitocin if you're going to do the epidural?
I believe you have to do Pitocin if you're going to get the epidural.
Okay. So when they had to physically break your water, did that hurt?
It didn't. I could barely feel it.
Okay.
But it was I could feel the fluids going everywhere. It was kind of gross, but nothing compared to those contractions. So it probably did. It would have hurt, but those contractions were so bad that it felt like nothing compared to what I had been going through. Okay. So yeah, those.
So you finished the bag of fluid. Now what?
So once that finished, they were able to call the anesthesiology team. So they finally come in, and then Tim has to leave. So nobody can be in the room with you when you're getting your epidural. So he did not like that. He was very nervous. And I was like, how am I going to sit still while they're giving me an epidural in my back, and these contractions are so painful?
Right.
So I had to sit up, turn, and hang over one side of the bed. And I was holding on to the nurse, I believe. Okay. And it was really quick. I mean, it was kind of uncomfortable. I guess when they pull the needle out and push in the catheter, you can feel that. It felt very weird, but I was nervous because you hear all those things of what can go wrong when you get an epidural, don't move, you could be paralyzed. So exactly. I was freaking out because I couldn't control my body. You're in labor, you can't control. I want to say the whole thing took no more than about 10 minutes.
Okay. Did they check your dilation before that?
My nurse checked me and I was at 6 centimeters.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that during the next assessment. So they give me the epidural. It takes a while for it to really kick in. Because I forgot what the questions they ask you, you shouldn't be able to feel this, you shouldn't be able to feel that. But I still had pain. I could still feel my contractions. They weren't as bad, but I can still feel them. So they had to end up coming back in within the hour to give me another dose of the medicine. And once they gave me that, I felt so much better. I didn't feel anything.
How did Colin take it? Did he was fine with epidural, or did
they to it fine? No changes. We had no complications whatsoever. It was just my body needing to do what it needed to do on its own at that point. So at this point, it's close to the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock shift change. And I was only 6 centimeters. I mean, hey, we're making progress, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is taking forever. So my new nurse comes on because now it's another shift change, and she's really sweet too. So she kind of gives me target goals, I'm going to come check you at this time to see where you are. So I think each time she checked me, I had made some progress.
Okay.
So she told me, I think at 8:30 was going to be her next check. And if I was complete by then, it was time to roll. So when she came in, I want to say it was 8:30, 8:45. I was 10 centimeters dilated.
Yay!
Yeah, I finally made it to the end, but I had kind of warned her because my mom and my sister have history of cold deliveries. So when I say that, I mean, when they check, the baby's head is already crowning. Okay. So when that nurse came on, I told her, I said, I just want to let you know that it is common in my family for the babies to come really quick. So for my sister, for both of her babies, each time the nurse came in, the baby's head was already already out. So they had to call a code to get the team in. So I was like, I don't know if that's going to be me, but just want to let you know that it's a possibility. So when she checked me, I was not only complete, but like she said, when she felt the baby's head was like right there. He wasn't crowning yet, but she was like, close your legs. We're not even going, she kind of went through how to push with me, but she was like, I don't want you to actually push because we're going to have a baby. And my doctor wasn't there yet. They had to get the on-call doctor to come in. So they call, everybody's coming in, they're setting up. And mind you, because it's COVID, I had like a FaceTime family group call. So I had like my mom, my grandmother, Tim's mom, my sister, like everybody, like they're with me on the phone. So that was very like, comforting and like,
yeah, that was good.
So it felt good to have them there. And so I want to say that was like 8:45-ish, 9:00. And Colin was born at 9:22. I only had to push maybe twice and he was here.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it was really good. I just couldn't believe it. Like I was just been through all of that and just to look up and just, to see him, it was just like, oh, wow. Like,
Did you tear at all?
So I did. I had a small first degree tear.
So that was only like 1 or 2 stitches, probably?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which they said was really good because my baby was 8 pounds and 13 ounces.
That is crazy. He was such a big baby.
I'd expect him to be that big. I was thinking maybe like closer to 8 pounds, but he was 8 pounds, 13 ounces, 22 inches long. I want to do skin to skin because I am breastfeeding. So they put him on my chest and he went straight to the breast and I was able to breastfeed him until he was done. His nurse ended up coming in, the transition nurse. So once I finished with the breastfeeding, she took him and she did his assessment. And then Dad got to hold him after he got all cleaned up. They did their skin to skin. And then they got us prepared and they got me moved over to a stretcher. And they brought us to our postpartum room.
Okay. Did they give him the option to cut the cord?
Yes, he cut the cord.
Okay.
Not only cut the cord, but at first he wanted to hold my leg. So he was down there looking and everything.
He was looking.
He looked and I was like, he could see the hair and everything. I was like, okay. He stopped me. I was like, don't you do nothing and pass out.
Exactly.
Fall to the floor. He looked, and I actually looked because on my birth plan, I wanted to see like the baby as he, was crowning and coming out. So they were very helpful and like reminding me, because you're in the moment, you don't remember everything you had in your birth plan. But she was like, well, you want me to go get a mirror so you can see? And I was like, sure. She was like, you want to reach down and feel? I was like, okay, yeah. I had forgot I wanted to do all those things. I got to see him come out. I got to feel his head. Tim got to come back closer to me to hold my hand. And it was a really life-changing experience. So
how was it when you looked? Did it change your life?
I actually wanted to catch the baby. I was telling them like, look, hey, y'all need me to put on some gloves. Y'all need me to get on anything, catch the baby. But I think it's because I was just looking at him coming out. Like I really wasn't like paying attention to the area. I was just so caught up in the moment. And then like when I saw, I really wasn't even like freaked out. But then I thought about it later. I was like, dang, my baby came like that.
Yeah, I told her you did good. I mean, he maybe got not even a full hour of sleep. Like he was up with every contraction. Like I said, he had learned how to like let me know, coach me through them. So he learned how to count the strips. So he would tell me, okay, babe, another one's coming. And he would, talk me through the peak. And he would like, okay, it's going back down. It's almost over. It's almost over. You did it. And he would like, tell me good job and blah, blah, blah. And like, he was awesome. Like,
but in that saying, she had prepped me before I got there. It was like, I'm a nurse and I see these daddies all the time. You're not gonna be one of them daddies that sit over there while I'm going through pain.
We weren't supposed to talk about all that.
I know that's right, Fairy. Good job.
But yeah, I do see that way too often where people just like, they're just the dad's just over there sleep on the couch and like the mom's just going through it by herself. Yeah, like, no, you're gonna be there. If I'm in pain, you're gonna be in pain. You're gonna be helping me through this.
Yeah, exactly. I don't blame you, girl. Okay, there you have it. That is Farian's birth story. Thank you so much, Farian, for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
So if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button below. Make sure you tune in to next week's video. I'll have another friend come on and share her birth story. Thanks. See you next time.